Well, as you know, there are no wonders of communism. My former assignment under Nixon and then under Reagan and Bush was to create the architecture for the takedown of the Soviet Union. And I did that at the Rand Corporation, came back into the Reagan administration under Baker and then under Bush. And we were successful in taking it down without any soldiers. The reason is very simple. It's not that I'm all that great or we were great in regime change. It was that Soviet Union and communism just didn't work. And it was rotten from the inside. I had men who were walking in the streets at literally 7 in the morning, totally drunk, no jobs. They had factories which were making things that were not useful. The army was not very effective. The intelligence service could be bought off, so forth and so on. So communism, the notion of the left and the ideology of the left is all fine and good, but in reality, it has no credibility. It has no viability. It has no legs to stand on. So when you're young, you want to protest and rebel. The Jacobean Revolution was under Robespierre, did effectively bring in Napoleon. The Russian Revolution effectively brought in Stalin. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be a little disconcerting to you and your listeners, but it's very important for me to say this right now. The revolution you had started, Alex, had nothing to do with communism, had to do with the voice of America and shifting us to the alternative right, or whatever narrative we want to use.
New right.
New right. The point I'm trying to make, and I wrote this several weeks ago, was the following. When Alex Jones gets compromised for whatever reason, I'm sorry you had to go to court. I saw that issue. Then I saw that Fox News was in trouble and Riley was compromised. Then I saw that Bannon was compromised. Now I see that Gork is compromised. So basically what we have now, Alex, is a counter-revolution, or basically what's happening in any revolution. It's what Hitler did in the Night of the Long Knives when he took care of his SA people and he exterminated them. So that's why I state this to the audience and I say it to you. I wrote that and I still mean that you are the American icon. However, the orders came out. There's no question in my mind now. It came out of the White House because the Clintons could never do this. The left doesn't have that kind of intelligence. They don't have that kind of capability. But within the structure of McMaster, the National Security Council, and the fact that we're mobilizing both into North Korea, into Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, it became obvious to me that whatever orders came out of the Trump administration, whether it was Jared or it was McMaster, didn't matter to me. Basically, what it said is we're going to shut up the voices of the alternative right. Well, what I'm getting at is it's exactly right, Alex. You know this, I know this is the history of all revolutions, whether it's the left or the right. Immediately, those we bring to power, whether they're generals or civilians in the senior ranks, they have never been in the forefront of any revolution. Our generals, who are 3, 4 stars or whatever, they sit back, they use the system. Then when they get in a position of power, they try to eliminate any of the voices of agitation propaganda that comes out from you, that would have come out from Bannon, that would have come out from Gorka, that would have come out from any other people. From my point of view, this was part of the system, and I was waiting for it to happen.
That's right.
Well, number one, the reason I'm coming on the show, one is to show my support to you. As I said, you're both a friend and you're an American icon. Number two, I think you should consistently maintain the dialogue that we, not Bannon, not Breitbart, not the Mercers, no one else, no other generals. There isn't one general who has the guts to come forth in a revolution. They're just not that way. They're socialized to be within their own system, almost a socialization system or socialism.
They're specialized in their own little paradigm to control them.
Correct. And the paradigm is a dangerous one because it demands a lot of money from us, the taxpayers, and at the same time, it's the expansion of, once again, Halliburton, KBR, they're all over Djibouti, they're all over Africa. Well, that's correct, Alex. It has to now depend on the character of Trump. If, in fact, he's a man of his word, a man of his conviction, not mercurial, not suddenly waving around and bringing in the people he does not know, or bringing in Jared Kushner with the Steinmetz family and the Israelis and the Goldman Sachs boys, none of whom have been tutored in anything to do with national security, national foreign policy. But we're structured now to be in a position of several wars at the same time. North Korea has been in a position where for the past 20 to 30 years, our military has developed what's called the 5027 plan or 5029 plan, where the Army, Navy, Marines, Special Forces can preempt an attack on North Korea. In Afghanistan, we have Marines going back in after our Marines were killed in exactly the same place. We have a 15-year war. We have Marines that were stationed, Special Forces, in Syria with artillery and with howitzers and soldiers. In effect, what we have is a military out of control, once again, which has never performed effectively. Never. Not since the Korean War, not since the Vietnam.
Sure, but let me just...
They're not going to kill you. There's no reason to kill you. They tried a verbal assassination. It didn't work. I mean, with all these nonsensical comedians, whether Colbert or Samantha Bee or whatever it was, no one listens to that anymore. It's antiquated. They're basically on their own sinking ship.
Most people don't, but some weak-minded people that I've been around actually do.
Well, the point is this. It's not about a few. The mainstream that we've created and that you've created and that part of our intelligence and military was part of, and then suddenly they turned around to try to desiccate or try to eviscerate us, that's not going to work. Because contrary to their understanding of the American people, this is not the old times with Smedley. This is not the old times with anybody else who brought them to power. This is a new time when the internet and people like ourselves can create a lot of problems for our own establishment. Now, once again, the military-industrial complex is far more important than Chobani. You know, the Turkish man who wants to sue you for yogurt, let him do that. It's a waste of time and money. Your character is strong enough and you're smart enough and you're witty enough. Almost reminds me of this guy, Bill Hicks, but of course you're not he. So your brilliance is so sharp that it's a knife in itself. You continue to be what you are, but I want to tell you that there was no question in my mind that this was a concerted effort by the White House to tame down or eviscerate the very people who were brought to power.
Sure. Well, just to be nice, I'm not that smart. I'm following the blueprint of Americana, but let's pull back from this. What do you expect them to do next? What do you see the next move being?
Well, what they're going to do next is try to expose any vulnerabilities that you may have again, or I may have, or any one of a number of people who are not following the trend or are not, succumbing to the military-industrial complex. You're talking about KBR in Djibouti having an incredible presence when we have no national security interests in Sudan, Somalia, or any of the African countries.
And by the way,
well, and we go back once again. This revolution was started with a coup and then a counter coup, and right now they have a soft coup where they've taken over, and now I think Eric Jr. has to come into the forefront. I've repeatedly said that Jared has to leave. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Chinese. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Israeli family, the Steinmetz, who were already indicted for diamond smuggling and illegal activities. I'm saying this to the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. He knows very well that this family, the Kushner family and the Steinmetzes, are totally corrupt. We cannot have that in the White House. This is not a nepotism republic. This is a republic that fought its way by people like you, me, and others who went to war. Kushner never went to war. The Israelis never went to war with us. Mossad was 9/11. The Israelis were involved in 9/11. We have the neocons coming back. I am warning the administration again and again. I did not take the time and the effort and the liberty and the risks that others are willing to do to bring back the pathetic neocons like Elliot Abrams or John Bolton or any one of these morons that you're putting in there. If McMaster doesn't understand how he came to power because Tom Clancy and I gave him money in ARMCAF. He came to power because he sat on the boards of other companies. Mr. Mattis was on the board of Dynacorp. He was on the board of another company. If the generals really think they are that great, they better look into the mirror. They have never won a war. They have never taken down a regime, and they have failed repeatedly in executing any military action. This has been our history before Korea, before Vietnam. We lost 55,000 men because the generals were incompetent, ignorant, and they had a dereliction of duty. I go back to McMaster. This is a dereliction of duty. Anything he wants to do now, and a force structure, bringing out the soldiers into North Korea and thinking that you can preempt an attack on North Korea when they're 30 miles away from Seoul, is both idiotic and inept. At the same time, continuing a war for 15 years in Afghanistan, where thousands of our Marines were killed in Helmand Province, and then putting more Marines in is nothing more than a barbaric stupidity. At the same time, putting in artillery and howitzers into Syria when you have no idea who the Alawites are, you have no idea how many Christians that the Bashar family's protecting, millions of them, and you're going to do a regime change because you have some moron named Pompeo who's head of the CIA because he was #1 at West Point but had never been in intelligence, never been overseas, really never understood anything except...
Doc, we're almost out of time. You got to come back in the next few days to really flesh this out, because I promise you go to calls and we have a Roger Stone with some breaking news. But just in the minute or two we have left, I love what Trump's doing, transferring power from the globalists back. He's doing a lot of great things in the economy, TPP, we've talked about it, so many good things. So I think he's for real. We know he's for real. There is an internal struggle. The listeners need to go out to these rallies, to send letters to the president, to call into C-SPAN, to call into talk radio, to create the buzz that we didn't elect Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, and that we, want the president to do something about the war on the press, the war on the liberty movement that is taking place. But more importantly, our listeners need to support your work, my work, and others' work as an act of resistance financially in the face of the attacks, the lawsuits, the kicking us off Google ads, you name it. Because, again, the attacks are intensifying. We're a beta test. And if they're able to shut down InfoWars, the sky's the limit.
That's correct. I do agree with you, and they won't shut you down. They're not that stupid. If they're that stupid, then they're self-destructive. But if that happens, we will do an alternative channel. Don't worry, Alex.
Well, I mean, obviously, they got to kill me to totally shut us down. We're only growing. It's backfiring. What are they going to do then if it's backfiring?
No, they're not going to kill you because then they don't want you dead. That would make you a martyr. They're not that stupid to make somebody a martyr, but they are that incompetent to think that they can put buttons on you, on Riley, on the Fox News, and on the other people who were involved, and then think that they could put pressure. Trump is not an innocent man. He has to grow up, he has to focus, and he has to be disciplined. In other words, there's no excuse.
Hold on, do a minute or two more on Trump, then we'll go to the next guest and the calls.